Battleground New York City, the fight for your vote. Your front row seat to the battle for New York's next mayor. It's the old guard clinging to power, chasing a candidate they never saw coming. Every night, our experts break it down.
What New Yorkers want above all else is authenticity.
We're listening to the people who matter most, you, the voters. And when the candidates sit across from us, nothing's off the table. What's your plan to make New York City feel like a safer city?
S.E. Cupp, that's your perception. Of course, there's a lot of crime.
So what's happening right now? Let's dive in. Welcome to Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. It's Monday, September 15th, and we're just 50 days away from this all-important New York City mayoral race. And now that we're in a sprint to November, this race is getting real and it's getting interesting. And Battleground NYC is going to cover it all. Later in today's show, we're going to talk to the president of the Brooklyn Young Democrats about this race and the bigger picture. But first, as always, let's get the latest news from the campaign trail. Joining me now is Morgan McKay, a political reporter with Fox 5 New York. Morgan, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we're rested. We had a weekend. Now we're back. We're back into the race, and there's a lot of news. Before we get to some big news for Zohran Mamdani, News 12 Westchester is reporting two sources told them that incumbent Mayor Eric Adams has made a decision and will likely drop out of the New York City mayor's race by the end of this week. We've heard this before. He has denied this before. What are you hearing now?
I think trying to keep track of exactly will he or won't he is becoming its own game with Mayor Eric Adams. Right now, he's saying he's in the race. And to prove it, over the weekend, he held probably about 5 to 6 campaign events each day, starting from really Friday. He's been holding just nonstop, back-to-back campaign events. But at the same time, we're getting just sort of different stories from people behind the scenes and people close to him as well. His campaign spokesman, for example, confirmed last week that this poll that he was talking about taking was going to determine whether or not he was going to drop out of the race. Then one day later, Adams came out and said, that's not true. He was just going to take a poll to determine whether or not, how he was going to strategize his messaging to voters, not whether or not he's going to drop out of the race. So we're getting not only mixed messaging from him, from his team. So it's kind of hard to see exactly where he's going to go. And it's sad to say that you don't fully trust him because he's saying very clearly he's staying in the race. And this is hurting him right now when it comes to donors, these rumors that he could be dropping out. But at the same time, these people who are close to him behind the scenes are saying that they're not really sure what he's going to do.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that you have other people openly talking about him dropping out and offering him jobs to drop out. So it's not like there's no conversation happening around this. They're talking about it. Yeah. We'll see if this is the week. Okay, let's move on. We have been covering, Morgan, endorsement gate since the beginning of this race. And after months of holding out and not endorsing the Democratic nominee after the primary, New York Governor Kathy Hochul has finally done it. She's written an op-ed in which she endorses Zohran Mamdani. Tell us what she said.
Yeah, so Governor Kathy Hochul, she wasn't really left with much of a choice here. She really was going to have to endorse in this race, and she chose to endorse Zohran Mamdani. And while saying that she had some disagreements with them, and she made those disagreements clear to him, she also said she really enjoyed his energy. She liked that he was fearless, she said, in the face of President Donald Trump. And she said that she really liked his affordability platform. That's something that's very important to her as well. They do have a number of disagreements, of course, on policing, on he wants to raise taxes on millionaires. That's something she says she's absolutely not going to do. Now, what I'm hearing from behind the scenes, like free buses, for example, that's something that maybe they're going to be able to work with and maybe come to an agreement on if he were to be elected. But her endorsement is very significant. At the end of the day, she's the head of the state Democratic Party, and her welcoming him into the fold is definitely noteworthy.
Yeah, good points. I've read a lot of endorsements in my time covering politics. This did a lot of things. It was a very deliberate message. There was some of it was her own legacy protecting, right? Like by saying, we don't agree on everything, and here are all the things I disagreed with him on, and I'm going to make sure that, he does it this way. And he's reassured me that he's going to do it this way. Very much sort of protecting Kathy Hochul from Zohran Mamdani, while also saying, but I like him enough that I feel good enough about him that that I can kind of get on board. It read as a reluctant endorsement to me. How are people talking about it inside City Hall?
For better or for worse, she's now tied to Mamdani. Whether or not he
Yeah,
wins in November, if he loses, she's now tying herself to Mamdani, to his platforms. She's going to be facing maybe a tough reelection next year, as it seems like right now. If Congresswoman Elise Stefanik decides to run against
right.
her, this could be a really tough race next year, especially in a year with midterms. So I think she's also a little nervous about how maybe tying herself to somebody a little bit further left than her is going to impact her in a state. Even though New York City is very blue, upstate is even red sometimes. So it could be a very
Yes.
competitive race. At the same time,
Yeah.
though, if you look at all the other candidates in the race, Mayor Adams, I mean, she almost removed him at one point from office when there was all the accusations against him and the
Right.
looming outstanding charges. And then Andrew Cuomo, she was his lieutenant governor. If you look at reports, there was a time when Andrew Cuomo almost didn't run with her in 2018, and that caused a lot
Right.
of strife with them. And although she ended up staying on the ticket with him when he ran for governor, she really was very distant from him, especially during the COVID pandemic when all the allegations came out against Cuomo. And then, as you know, she obviously became governor when he had to step aside. But she was left
Yeah.
holding the bag on a number of issues that she definitely blames Cuomo for, like bail reform and even
Hmm.
legalizing
Hmm.
cannabis and the mess with that rollout, especially here in New York City.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was anywhere else for her to go unless she wanted to just stay out, which she didn't. Now, this followed an endorsement from Maryland Senator. Stay with me, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen. I know what you're thinking. Why is a Maryland senator endorsing in a New York City mayoral race? I had the same thought, but there's more. He also scolded House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries for not endorsing Mamdani, to which Jeffries' spokesperson said, "Chris Van who?" Yikes. Now, these are all Democrats, sparring with each other. Are you hearing anything about whether a Jeffries endorsement is on its way? Only, Morgan, so that we can stop talking about it.
I would love to ask that question as well. I would love to say, please just tell me whether or not you're going to endorse so we can stop asking you. But I think right now it's all up in the air.
Okay, so we'll still see if Hakeem Jeffries is holding out or if Chris Van Holland of Maryland is going to needle him to the point of submission and finally get him to endorse in this race. It's fascinating to watch. Morgan, stay right there. I've got more questions for you. Battleground NYC will be right back. We're back with Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. Let's get back to more news from the race. Back with me is Morgan McKay, political reporter with Fox 5 New York. Okay, some news outside of endorsement gate. Zohran Mamdani has released a 17-page plan on public safety, Morgan. What can you tell us about it?
So Zohran Mamdani has had this platform out since the beginning, but if you go to his website, it's actually really hard to find because it's not a public safety list or anything like that. It's tucked underneath this Department of Safety tab that you have to go in, and then you'll find his public safety platform. And within it, he sort of sets it up because this Department of Community Safety that he's looking to create is about $1 billion. It's outside of the police budget, he says, so it would require more money, but it would sort of be almost like this umbrella over public safety, mental health, and these services that the city provides. They spend millions of dollars in gun safety programs, mental health programs, and different things like that. And so this would kind of do an all-encompassing sort of department that would be able to deploy resources better, according to Mamdani, and it would sort of organize them a little bit better, probably could use it. But the issue here, I guess, that some people have is that it would also deploy mental health professionals alongside police. Now, that's something that's been, I guess, debated for a long time now, whether or not that would be useful or how helpful that would be. There was a former NYPD chief, Rodney Harrison, who's actually been advising on the Mamdani campaign. He is also a former police commissioner out on Long Island, and he has said publicly that he really thinks having a mental health professional tied with police officers would be really helpful and take away some of the pressure from police officers in certain
Mm.
situations that are maybe a little more risky or a little more controversial, and kind of place this responsibility on these mental health professionals rather than the police officers. However, how this is all going to work is still a little unclear. And whether or not, I think the big concern here is that none of the money gets moved from the NYPD budget. Mamdani pledges he will not touch the NYPD budget. He also says he won't hire more police officers. And right now, the NYPD is about 2,000 to 3,000 police officers short from what they're budgeted for. So he hasn't really said whether he would hire, but he also said he wouldn't touch it. So whatever that means, that's what he's doing.
It's a big issue, and he's going to have to answer more questions about the specifics of his public safety plan, because I know there are questions about whether you're sending mental health officers with police or instead of police. That's a important distinction.
Yes.
And I think we're a little unclear on that. Is he dismantling the special response unit that responds to some of these issues? What's his plan for large scale protests? I mean, there's a lot.
Yes.
I'm hoping that we get to in debates and more interviews. I hope he talks to more reporters so that we can answer more questions about that stuff.
And domestic violence calls, I think that's another really big concern.
Yes.
He had kind of mentioned at one point during the campaign that he would send mental health professionals instead of officers. And if you speak to
Yes.
any officer, they'll tell you that domestic violence cases calls can often be the most violent just because of heightened tensions and stuff like that. So I think that would be kind of the one big concern. I also spoke to Mamdani recently about another part of it, which is the subways. And he
Yeah.
wants to turn empty retail spaces in the subway into almost these triage centers for people who are having some sort of mental health episode, that they can go and get help in the subway right there. That's also drawn some criticism as well, just in terms of, how is that going to look?
Yeah, how's it going to look and how's it going to work? I mean, it seems great if someone voluntarily went to go get help for themselves, but the problem is often when someone doesn't realize they need help and then becomes a threat to other people. So there's a lot in this, and I know it's top of mind for a lot of New York voters, so we'll keep asking the questions. Morgan McKay, thanks so much for coming on and bringing your reporting with you. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
You too. More Battleground NYC. We'll be right back after the break. We're back with Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. And joining me now for the bigger picture is Carlos Calzadilla-Palacio. He's president of the Brooklyn Young Democrats. Welcome, Carlos.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So first, tell us about the Brooklyn Young Democrats and what your focus has been in this race for New York City mayor.
Yeah, we have been focusing on elevating the voices of young people right now, and our endorsements are a reflection of our values. We believe in a city that truly fights to make sure that we have an affordable life for everyone. We stand on our values, progressive values, making sure that we fight for our civil rights as well, that are under attack increasingly by the federal government. So we have made endorsements from citywide to borough-wide and council races here in Brooklyn for candidates who are standing up against this billionaire class that just profits, becomes wealthier and wealthier, and at the same time uses that money to influence our politics, so that we can have, as young people, just basic needs met because of this affordability crisis. And we have been proud of everyone that we have endorsed to really make an impact, and we show young people that you can get involved locally and you can shape the outcome of our city, especially with what's going on in the country, making sure that at least our city, our borough, is fighting for better conditions for everyone. It really gives a lot of young people hope, and we are effective, and we do the work, on the ground.
So your group has endorsed Mamdani in the primary. Tell us about that endorsement, why you decided to go with Zohran Mamdani in the primary.
So we endorsed a progressive slate with Brad Lander and Zohran Mamdani as the 1 and 2. And we made it very clear and told young people, do not rank Cuomo. We are tired.
Why was that?
We're tired as young people that we have a disgraced former governor that not only resigned because of the sexual harassment and workplace conditions, but also the type of politics that he represented. Right, it is a politics that is stuck in the past. It is a politics of not actually delivering bold solutions for people. And we have to remember when he helped maintain the control of the IDC in the state Senate, so that we actually couldn't pass a lot of Democratic priorities. We saw the Medicaid cap. We also saw the MTA money coming out of the MTA, which now we're seeing the results of what has happened. And even if you look at Cuomo's campaign, it did not seem like he wanted to represent New York City. And we could tell, everyone could tell. And I think the reason that he lost, he thought this was beneath him. And we need a mayor that believes in New York and actually wants to fight for it to be a beacon of not just hope, but also where people do want to live and thrive and are not priced out of this city because everything is so expensive, and we just don't see the government playing its role like it should. And we don't believe that Cuomo brought anything new, and we were excited.
What about incumbent Mayor Eric Adams? Why wasn't he, who's a Democrat, now he's running as an independent, but why didn't he get the endorsement of Brooklyn Young Democrats?
Well, the answer is right there. He didn't run in the Democratic primary. We're the Brooklyn Young Democrats, so we endorsed in the primary. I mean, the level of corruption, people are tired. This is an expression of a Democratic electorate that does not want more corruption and the same politics as usual from Eric Adams. And also, if you see the agencies, understaffing at agencies, we have an incredible turnover. How are we going to be able to have effective agencies that do critical work in our city when you have such turnover because of the working environment, because they're not even staffed properly? And also, he's been the mayor for many years.
Right.
And we have look what we have right now. We have an affordability crisis. You know, all the things that Republicans point out as cities not working. Well, Eric Adams was the mayor, and he's compromised by Donald Trump. I mean, it's obvious that Donald Trump was able to pull that investigation into his corruption and his campaign violations. So I think that at the end of the day, there's two choices in this general election. It's either Trump's candidates or it's Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic Party nominee.
So who did Brooklyn Young Democrats endorse in 2021?
So in 2021, there wasn't an endorsement. And the reason was because in the Constitution at the time, you couldn't endorse. There wasn't a ranked choice way of figuring out how to endorse. We changed that this year, actually. That was a big change, a democratic change, so we could endorse, and we have a ranked choice amendment, so we were able to get involved. And I believe that young people should get involved, and young Dems should get involved in primary. We were the only young Democrats in New York City that endorsed in the primary.
Gotcha. Okay. And what are you making of endorsement gate? Should Hakeem Jeffries, should Chuck Schumer, should Kirsten Gillibrand endorse the Democratic nominee?
I think Kathy Hochul laid out a great argument in the New York Times today. It is about time that we rally together for the Democratic nominee. This is where the energy of the party is. What better example than the highest voter turnout in the history of New York City primary election? We have to listen and we have to support that, because right now the problem with the party is that young people and the electorate doesn't feel like the leadership is representing what we want, which is we want fighters, not folders, and we want to tackle the affordability crisis. So absolutely we should rally behind it, because what are we going to do? Allow Trump's candidates, Cuomo right now, that is apparently Trump's pick, or the other one, Sliwa, who's a Republican, or Adams, who maybe stays in the race or not. We believe that we need to rally against in favor of our nominees, because that is what democracy is about. As Democrats, we need to make sure that we support who our electorate voted for.
Carlos, stay with me. I've got more questions for you. Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. We'll be right back after this. We're back with more Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. One last time with Carlos Calzadilla-Palacio. He's president of the Brooklyn Young Democrats. So, Carlos, let's get into some of those issues. If you're a young person living in Brooklyn, say, what's on your mind? What do you want to see the next mayor do for second and third?
I mean, first of all, if you're a young person in Brooklyn, the first thing you're thinking about is rent. I mean, it's rising constantly. Many young people are living with multiple roommates and still are struggling to pay the rent, groceries. I mean, basic stuff. Also, the future. it's an impossible dream right now to own an apartment, or own a home, start a family, how unaffordable childcare is. Also, as young
Yep.
people, we want to be able to get to our job on time because the train's running
Mhm.
like it's supposed to. We want to make sure that we have a walkable, livable, and affordable city where we can achieve
Mhm.
our dreams. This is literally a city of dreams, but those dreams are being crushed under debt, under unaffordability. And we also want to be able to go out and have fun, but we don't have money to do that. So
Mhm.
this election, this primary, and I believe this general, but this primary was a a way of young people just saying, enough with the way that the political elite and the economic elite have handled this. This was a revolt against that politics, and us showing our grievances at the ballot box because we have
Yeah.
not been heard. So
Mhm.
we want to be able to have a future, a career, and a life where we're also feel safe, and we feel safe when we're crossing the street. So we need to make the city more walkable, more safe for bikers and pedestrians. And we want also to make sure that our neighbors are protected. We don't have immigrants being snatched out of their homes or at courthouses by masked ICE agents. We want to feel safe. And we
Mhm.
also want to be able to afford a life and pursue our careers and our dreams. And Zohran Mamdani really spoke to that message. And that was us as young people saying enough is enough.
This race, as I'm sure you know, has been nationalized. Even the president is weighing in. How much do you think? This is going to sound like a leading question. It's not. I want the honest answer from your point of view. How much do you think New Yorkers, young New Yorkers, want a mayor who's going to focus on making New York a better place to live and work? All the things you just said. Versus how much do you think they want a New York City mayor who's going to fight President Trump? I hear this from young people, and so I'm not dismissing
Yeah,
it as unimportant. Give me the breakdown of how much of
yeah,
that project is guiding some
yeah.
young voters as well.
I mean, two things can be possible, and they're inextricably linked. Donald
Yeah.
Trump is attacking New York not just through rhetoric and also through ICE, but he is this big ugly bill is going to make it so much more expensive to live in New York City because you're going to have people getting kicked off of Medicaid. You're going to have Medicare getting millions of people getting kicked off. Food assistance. Children are going to go hungry every single day. He's trying to pull money off infrastructure projects. So this is actually linked. We need a mayor
Mhm.
that's going to stand up to Donald Trump and also stand up to those cuts and mobilize and energize the voters and the constituents of this city. So we want a mayor that's going to stand up for our values and for our neighbors, and we want a mayor that's going to pursue a unapologetic agenda of affordability. I think that those two things are very connected, and that is what we see in Zohran.
Mhm.
From his focus on the campaign was razor and laser focus on
Yeah.
ensuring freezing the rent, the fast and free buses, affordable childcare, like investing in programs. And when he stood up to Tom Holman, when he came to Albany,
Mhm.
and people
Yeah.
want authenticity. It's the biggest currency right now in politics. Someone that's authentic, unapologetic, and has bold ideas. I think that those things are critical to fighting Trump and Trumpism, which is ultimately people feeling that cities are not being run correctly. Well, this is a chance to actually run a city so that it makes it affordable and people can actually be happy where they're living, and that is critical to combating Trump.
Democrats are not in a great place nationally. I hear this from Democrats in Washington and all over the country. What should they learn from this race in New York City, both for the midterms in 2026 and then for the presidential in 2028?
We need to be embracing Zohran and the way that he talked about issues and bold ideas. I mean, we have to learn from that. That's where the energy of the party is, the issues he spoke about. I mean, it is not about left versus right. It is really about the 99% against the 1% of billionaires, of corporate monopolies that keep price gouging. They're hiking prices, they're hiking rents. That is the message. And that message works because at the end of the day, Zohran, one of his big campaign videos was asking Trump supporters, what would make you, why did you vote for Trump? And what would make you vote for a Democrat? And those issues are across the aisle. And we have to learn from that. And we have to also make sure that we're communicating. He did really well in communicating in the way that people are consuming their media. But it's not just copying and pasting a short form video. It's also bold policies that address inequality and the economic anxiety of people.
Carlos Calzadilla-Palacio, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Sure. And we'll see you back here tomorrow and every Monday through Friday until this race is over with more Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote.